I mean, is it really news? Is it more, or is it just?
I mean, it's part of it. It's just sort of regular at this point, isn't it? Well, oh wait, no, this is me. I know. I'm looking at a channel right now with a list of names in order. This is going to be a shit show.
This is wow.
So shocking, possibly absolutely nobody, unless you happen to work for them. CD Projekt Red has delayed Cyberpunk 2077 again. It will now be released shortly after Star Citizen. No, okay, it's not that bad. It's been delayed by like a month. It's been delayed till I was about to say November the 10th. It's not. It's 10th of December. So it's not a massive delay, but it's another delay. And this is, of course, after recently there was that whole thing where, by the way, devs, you are no longer allowed to have a personal life or do anything other than work and sleep for the next until launch. Until now, launch being moved back by 21 days means that that's another 3 weeks of work, sleep, and probably death, and probably shortly after release mass resignations, if they're sensible.
I don't like the way Temco is rubbing his hands.
No, Temco's got a rant brewing somewhere in his head. I mean, that's just the standard, but he's a ranty sort of person.
And that smug face.
You mean the face he has when he's awake?
Sorry, I was born with it.
Maybe he's born with it. Maybe it's no. We're not. We're not being sponsored by them enough to say that.
But yeah, it got delayed again.
So it got delayed again by 21 days. There was a great deal of PR talk in this. Today we decided to move release of Cyberpunk by 27 days. Most likely there are many emotions and questions in your heads. I'll get to that in a sec. So first and foremost, please accept our humble apologies.
No.
I mean, I don't care that it's delayed. I really couldn't give a shit that it's delayed. Like,
not in and of itself, no.
It's everything surrounding the delay.
Well, also that apparently the people working on the game, the actual devs,
got emailed at the same time the tweet went out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which sort of like that.
It's a piss take.
That's a cuntish move if there could be.
It comes to something when you're working for a company and it's quicker to like just have their emails.
Have
their Twitter on notification to get news about your job.
They've gone to all this trouble of getting a nice pretty picture, putting a logo in the corner and stuff, getting everything written out.
The American government? You don't announce things over Twitter.
It's like, I don't care about a delay to a game intrinsically, right? I'm not one of those idiot people who take days off work to play a new game, unless...
oh yes, Twitter was fun.
Like, now sometimes I have done that, but normally I don't care. If it's, like, I'll take 1 day off work, and I'm perfectly happy having a day off work if there's nothing to need to do. To be fair, it's a day off work. I don't have to be working, and I'm still getting paid for it. I'm not complaining. But
I occasionally take days off work to play games.
Yeah, you do occasionally not shop on Saturdays, that is true. You never take release day off. You take the day off. You take the day after release day off. Tell me.
It should be the week after.
Yeah.
So I remember with MMOs, that was actually a thing where you don't take the release day off. You don't do that. That's bad. You take off after midnight off release day.
Yeah.
And then 4 days later.
Yeah. Release day, you never know what time it's going to be. Anyway, we're getting.
Why was it delayed?
So their reasoning for the delay is the challenge right now is shipping on. In fairness, they are shipping on, I think. No, I was about to say 7, but 9 different versions of the game. You have 2 versions of Xbox. No, it's 3 versions of Xbox. You've got Xbox One, Xbox X, and Series S and X. So 4. Right. I don't know. It's 3, 4, whatever. This is very fluffing the numbers a lot at this point, but you get the point. PS4 and Pro, PS5, PC, and Stadia. And like, regardless of how much number fluff there is in there, which there's a fair amount, you get to 9 if you consider every single variation separate. I'm not sure whether that's really valid, but whatever.
They apparently do.
They apparently do, because they need to make it.
Is irrelevant. It's what they.
That's what they said anyway. But in fairness, it is a lot of different platforms. On the other hand, the first announcement that Cyberpunk existed was in 2012. Barack Obama was still
Yeah.
president and had just won his Barack Obama won his second term as the president in 2012. That's how long ago this game was announced.
But so they're basically saying it's the number of consoles.
They're saying it's the number of different
versions.
Yeah, it's the number of different versions they have to test to make sure they're all working to a releasable version.
Sure,
And
makes sense.
It came out after the announcement that the two that they're having to do extra work on are the last or current gen one.
Yeah,
The PS4
Makes sense
and
as
the
well.
Xbox,
the
whichever series.
two
it is
most
there.
technologically limited ones.
Yeah,
Yes.
which also makes sense. Yeah.
It kind of does, but I can imagine if we see repeats of this, with other companies having to delay because they're producing for so many different consoles, then we might see people starting to get fed up with.
Well, isn't that the reason why
the releases being held back?
There's
Yeah.
now, regardless of what you think about with delays, and regardless of what you think about the working culture at CD Projekt Red, and I have a bit more to say on that in a minute anyway, but regardless of what you think of all of that, the fact that some people responded to the delay announcement by sending fucking death threats to the developers
Sadly,
is
I am
fucking...
not surprised.
It's maybe not surprising, and it should be. It's fucking obnoxious. Those people have no business existing on the internet and should not be allowed to
Or
send messages
life.
to anywhere, frankly. But yeah, it's like, these are people who are doing this for a job.
It's like sort of, I don't know.
It is not.
I don't know.
If you're sending death threats because a game that you don't own, you're still not own. No, this is not a question of. It's not a question of some national critical infrastructure. And even if it was, that isn't a justification to send death threats to anyone. My point being, this is a game. It's a recreational activity.
So I want to play devil's advocate a tiny bit.
Oh dear.
This is going to go badly.
Yeah, probably. So first off, obviously, death threats super atrociously, terribly bad. And the question I have though is this someone on Twitter saying "I'll kill you," or is this a credible death threat? Because the more and more in the modern world,
I mean, I haven't
there is a
seen
big
all
difference between
I haven't
like
seen
an
all the
actual
death threats, but they are. I haven't seen like
and
most of
regardless,
them.
Obviously, don't fucking do it, you fucking idiot.
And I don't know. I have no information as to the credibility. I have seen some of them, and they are specific and detailed.
Yeah,
This is not just a case of.
Okay.
Yeah, this is not a case of release the game and I'm gonna fucking kill you. This is a graphically
okay.
detailed death threat
Then
that is beyond any
throw them off a
question.
building, off a ledge, off the cliff, off a mountain, I guess.
Two wrongs.
I mean, you could put a building on a cliff edge, of the ledge of a cliff edge.
Yeah,
on
that
a
was my idea, like
mountain.
a cliff edge from a mountain,
Just
and then a
keeps
building,
going up.
and then throw them off.
Anyway, throw from halfway off a space elevator. Anyway,
I think my favourite part about all this, death threats to one side, is the response.
Which side?
Is the response that people had to the tweet. There has been memes about it.
yeah, some of the memes were funny.
There have been complaints because the day before someone had asked whether or
Oh,
not
this tweet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there was someone who said, right, Cyberpunk is definitely going to be released on whatever it was, and this account,
November 19th,
and the account said, yep, definitely, no more delays. The next day, less than 24 hours later, well, Cyberpunk replies to its own tweet, well, this aged badly. And a couple of days later, the Cyberpunk account again tweeted, so how's your week going? Or something like that. And it's like...
I also saw a tweet somewhere like saying, would everyone notice if we just quickly deleted this? Which, I mean, it's like, obviously, it sucks, and except for the guy that took days off.
The social media team did not have any more advanced notice of this than anyone else. No chance. They had probably less notice than anyone else because of the social media team. No one ever seems to care about the social media team, let's be honest. They should, because the social media team drives sales, but...
The underpaid intern doesn't really get a say in things.
Something like that, yeah. So there were several memes on it. There was one game company who basically ripped the format and did a one-line thing.
that was Pearl Abyss, wasn't it?
I think so. I don't remember who. I don't remember who it was, but their line was, "We've decided to make our like branding background yellow now." There was another one who said, "Hi guys, we decided to let you know our branding back, whatever the color scheme, whatever the phrasing they were using has always been yellow."
That would be the Pearl Abyss one, I think.
But not my point being that other games companies are now at the point where they're just taking a piss out of CD Projekt Red.
It's like free karma, right? It's like, look, we can make a cheap joke, get some recognition, maybe get some upvotes on Reddit, and go, me.
Yeah, at this point, it's sort of speaking as to how unseriously other games companies are starting to take CD Projekt Red now. As Mel said, would be hilarious. Would be hilarious if Star Citizen said "Welcome to the club." There is, however, also obviously the CD Projekt Red leadership ended up apologizing to employees, having previously told investors that crunch is not that bad. Please impact everyone's heads repeatedly against their desk, because for Christ's sake, everyone agrees that it's bad. The CEO agreed it's bad, did it anyway, but at least he agreed it's bad, and then he just straight up and told the complete opposite to investors.
The actual email or the contents of the email is so weak. It's literally sort of like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have done this." It's like, so why the fuck did you do it then?
Yeah,
investors.
Right?
It's like sort of this thing where he's not the first one. There's been many game companies over the last decade, that have said one thing publicly in a PR statement or like a show or an event, and then gone on an investor call with EA or Blizzard, I think it was at one point, and then gone like, "Oh yeah, the thing I said is bullshit. We're not doing that. So don't worry about your investment. We're definitely doing it this way." And like, you are aware these are public, right? You are aware people know how the internet works, right?
Clearly not. No.
So this is no different than that. He's trying to protect, obviously, his investment, the stock market price of the company, which is his job as CEO. And he didn't expect people to pick it up. So he just gambled on that.
I mean, honestly, at that point, you're failing as a CEO if you don't understand how that works.
Oh.
Like if you're he's been in that business. He has been the CEO of CD Projekt Red as long as CD Projekt Red has been a business. But at this point, he should understand that
I think he knows exactly what he's doing.
I've had a thought, which is dangerous. So
everyone, everyone, grab your calendars, make a note. Milestone event.
CD Projekt Red have confirmed that they were actively working on Witcher 4.
Have they?
Yes.
Now, I have not heard this. Oh God.
They have. Now, what worries me is if it took from 2012 to 2020 to get Cyberpunk out, how long is it going to take?
So that's really hard to judge one or the other, because
ask Chris Roberts.
Well, no. So they restarted Cyberpunk in 2015 after the release of Witcher 3.
Yeah, they announced Cyberpunk in 2012, and then they basically ignored it to focus on Witcher 3.
Right, because the same way, that's the same way how Blizzard said, Diablo 3 took 9 years, but for the first 7 years we didn't know about the existence of it. And here we knew basically from day one, which was obviously fucking stupid on CD Projekt Red side, but let's assume they were smaller companies.
I would argue that wasn't actually that stupid, because it has been a hype train for 8 years, which has not stopped until pretty much.
For sure, but that has its own challenges. But let's say, and then they realized, okay, Witcher 3 is way too big for us. We need to strip the team. So basically canceled all their other projects and then restarted after the fact. More in line with what they see the future being versus what it was. So I don't think it makes sense. I think, obviously, they could reuse some tech and prep work, but let's assume it took 5 years to 6 years, which is still 5 to 6 years is right about what most AAA games take to develop. If you look at Mass Effect, most Mass Effects took 5 to 7 years. Andromeda had 3 years, and you see how burnt it was. So,
I never played Andromeda.
I mean, realistic.
Didn't you just say don't?
Yeah, he just said don't. On a completely unrelated note, that is not completely unrelated. Outstar Walker, a partner Twitch streamer who is now a community developer for World of Darkness IP at Paradox, used to work for a companies. So a couple of days ago, she tweeted, "So can I now share that I earned $430 monthly for full-time work on facial animations on that great game free and that great company that totally treats their passionately punching employees fairly? If you're missing the obvious here, this was obviously The Witcher 3 CD Projekt Red." Yeah. Now this was several years ago. This isn't a super recent thing, but this was this was when Witcher 3 was still being developed, so it was like several years ago.
Yeah.
Which incidentally is less than her monthly rent, just rent, not even considering other living expenses.
Mm-hmm.
She confirmed that. And they weren't where she lived at the time. To quote her, "We rented a small 2-room apartment away from the center."
Yeah.
And
so do note, in Poland, salaries are all over the fucking place. It's kind of ridiculous. But Warsaw, where CD Projekt is located, the capital, is no cheaper than, well, it's definitely cheaper than London, for example, but it's no cheaper than most capitals or other major metropolitan cities. So prices are what you'd expect in any West European city. Obviously, if you're in like Eastern, like outback, nowhere, small town with 6 huts, it's going to be a very different story. That said, 500 is insane. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Some basics.
Like, that's fuck.
I can't remember who I was talking to about it. I think it was Frici. But
Frici, was it you?
Probably. Own up. But he reckons.
If we say it enough.
Yeah. Did you say I don't have a mirror handy? I suppose I could just talk into the camera. Would that work? I mean, I can see my monitor, so.
Moving
on. But it's less than half of the industry average for that job.
Well, it's way less than half.
It's like
it cannot be even half.
And honestly, it's like, because Poland does not exactly have the best reputation with regards to women's rights anyway.
Right now, but that's unrelated.
No, but it hasn't been that good for a while.
Well, employee rights and women's rights are 2 separate things, I guess. There.
Yes, but women employees' rights.
That
just compounds the problem. Poland are not exactly, shall we say, open-minded, liberal people who actually understand the concepts of rights for anyone who isn't, already in power, etc., etc., etc. I'm just finding words to say at this point.
Clearly. Sorry.